Welcome to Fuller Butz, a behind-the-scenes plastic surgery podcast. Yes, you heard that right. Join your co-hosts, Dr. Sam Fuller and Dr. Dan Butz, board-certified plastic and reconstructive surgeons, on an exclusive full-access pass into the world of plastic surgery. Combining their expertise and training, Drs. Fuller and Butz will share medical insights, detailed explanations, and lighthearted humor to keep you entertained and informed. We're certain you'll become passionate about the plastic surgery specialty, and between debunking myths, uncovering truths, or just making you laugh out loud at their perspective on this creative and artistic field, we've got something for everyone. From tummy tucks to Botox and mommy makeovers to surgery do-overs, the Fuller Butz podcast will surely satisfy your podcast fix. All right, now let's dive into this episode.
Hello and welcome back to the podcast. It's Dr. Fuller and Dr. Butz here on Fuller Butz, a behind-the-scenes plastic surgery podcast. How's it going, Dan?
Good. How are you doing, Sam?
I am doing great. I'm excited. The week's over. How's your week been?
It was busy. Operated 4 days. Just a lot of good consults. A really busy post-op day, and then but had half an afternoon off with all that. So it was good.
So,
what about you?
Is your schedule typically operating 4 days a week, or do you have a set schedule?
Normally I'll have clinic Monday, Fridays, and then operate Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday with some afternoon clinics, depending on the schedule, see post-ops and whatnot.
I'm pretty set with OR 50% of the time and clinic 50% of the time. So I operate all day, Mondays, Wednesdays, Friday mornings. Then I have clinic Tuesday, Thursday, Friday afternoons, except for at the end of the year where we try to squeeze in some more surgeries just because people have time off, want to get stuff done around the holidays.
Yeah, the Monday case was because someone had to get it done before the holiday. Essentially, we were able to squeeze it in, make it work. Any
interesting cases or clinic consults or anything?
Yeah, there's a bunch. We had one good case. It was kind of the opposite of our podcast name, Fuller Butz. We were actually reducing a BBL. She had a BBL and then a revision and felt like she had gotten too big. Not by me, elsewhere. And it was pretty substantial. It took up over a liter. And it, I think it'll look a lot more proportional.
So
I feel like we're going to be seeing more and more of these as things have really, BBLs have really skyrocketed and kind of gotten a little out of hand in a lot of ways.
Yeah, there's trends and fads. I couldn't really wait until the huge lip fad went away and we can start to get down to more normal rejuvenated lips.
Has that gone away?
I think so. I mean, people used to be putting like suction on their lips to make them like exaggerated. I don't think I'm looking around seeing that anymore, but just as much as clothing goes in and out with tight fitting, baggy, and I feel like big butts and BBLs are going to go away and everyone's going to want them sucked out and stuff.
Yeah, and I also think gravity and skin laxity 10, 15 years on the line is going to play a big role and maybe requiring real lifts, but that could be a different topic. What about you? You have anything interesting this week?
Yeah, I think we should change the topic. Otherwise, this episode is going to be called Empty Butts pretty soon. No, I just had some good cases. Had a in between makeover case where we did breast augmentation and then we did liposuction 360. And a patient who wasn't quite ready to commit to the full tummy tuck, had some laxity, not significant, but just was unhappy with the overall volume. And so went back and forth, pros and cons, try to set expectations, and turned out really nice. Actually, was able to get quite a bit out in a safe, way, and small incisions. We don't have as long of a recovery, so I think it's going to turn out great. But those are always those tweener cases where if you want a dramatic big result, I think you need to do the big surgery. You shouldn't be cutting corners or trying to expect something more minor to give you the same result. And I think as long as we set those expectations on what is predictable for liposuction only versus tummy tuck, then you can still end up with a happy patient and not forcing them to have surgeries that they don't want.
Yeah, those can be. Yeah, I think what you said is really key. Is having realistic expectations. I think being able to offer the full spectrum is huge. I see a lot of people coming in for revision consults where they've gone to kind of liposuction only clinics, and that's all they offer, and they end up with a lot of loose skin, a lot of scarring and tethering, and it ends up, being more expensive, bigger surgery, bigger recovery, a little bit riskier, but normally we can fix it, but you don't want to be having 2 surgeries if you don't need to. But there are certain patients where you can still get a really good result with just lipo, even if they may benefit from the tummy tuck for sure.
Yeah. And, I think in the exam room in the OR, we have different team members that are with us through these consults. That's our segue into today's episode.
We have a team.
And they're, very important, critical, paramount to the patient experience. And that's really our staff, our team that works with us day in and day out, whether it's in the office, in the OR. We talked about how many days we're in the OR and how many days we're in the office. And it's not just us. You're not just walking in and we're greeting you. We're doing all the paperwork. We're changing your dressings. We're giving you recommendations, answering all the calls. We have a whole support team. And so we wanted to give them a shout out and importantly, let patients or would-be patients, people who are interested in plastic surgery, just want to know how the logistics work, how the wheels spin, and who's really part of our teams on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, dream work or teamwork makes the dream work.
Yeah.
Is that how it goes? I'm so bad at those things.
I think so. Why don't you ask one of your teammates?
Yeah. No, they really are crucial. I mean, we can do very little by ourselves. So it's, and every clinic's probably a little different how they have it set up. But
so
do you want to start with clinic, your clinic setup, or OR, or both?
Both. I want to talk about both, but let's see Quintessa first. So I call Quintessa. I wait 11 months to get in to see Dr. Dan Butz because he's just so hard to get into. I pay the exorbitant fee for consultation, and I'm finally able to go in to your suite. What should I expect to see?
Yeah, so I think we really try to educate before the consult. So we have a kind of team that answers the phones, and they're very well educated, and they can answer a lot of the common questions before they even come in. And then they are often scheduled for the consult, not normally 11 months. And we do have a consult fee, but that can be applied towards surgery. And before the consult, you get a call from our scheduler, coordinator, who kind of is normally the kind of point person before surgery to make sure everything gets set up perfectly and smoothly. And then the day of the clinic, you come in, my nurse meets you, brings you back, we talk, and we go into the exam room. The nurse comes with for the exam, take measurements, go over different options, and then we get photos. Then you meet with the coordinator, you get the quote for surgery. And if you want to schedule that day, she goes over dates or talks about general scheduling timeframes. And then she's kind of there to help you whenever you're ready to get scheduled. So that's kind of all the to getting scheduled people.
And how many offices do you go to?
I've narrowed it down to 2 now. I used to go to 4, but we've hired some new surgeons, so we're kind of scaling back the driving, which is nice.
And do your staff follow you to each office, or do you have different staff for each office?
Yeah, so my coordinator, scheduler, and my nurse come with me basically everywhere.
Okay, and do they participate in OR as well, or are they clinic?
My nurse, she does help in the OR as well, and the scheduler's kind of normally, when we're not in clinic, she's then kind of following up with people, scheduling and taking care of all that stuff.
And that's huge, isn't it? Because when they're answering questions for patients, or they're, wondering what's normal post-op, or, how much pain are they going to be in, it's great because that person's been through every single phase of the surgery. So they've been next to you as you're sucking fat out, or as you're cutting and trimming and making things look beautiful. So I think that's probably very helpful. Would you agree?
Yeah, she often has real in the OR insights to what exactly that patient, and she's seen however many other hundreds of patients kind of go through it, so she can answer almost every question. She obviously runs a lot of things by me, but she's kind of one of those right hand people you really have a hard time functioning without. What about you? What's your setup like?
Yeah, so my office, of course, is run through an orthopedic group. So we have 20 plus other doctors practicing within the same facility. So we have a robust call center, secretaries who are fielding calls from foot and ankle injuries to spine injuries to now cosmetic, which is this new specialty that we've introduced.
They love that
over the last few years. And it took a lot of onboarding, on training, on building up the confidence and the ability to handle these calls. And then really it's patient centric. It's like anything else. You want to put your best foot forward and be thorough about it. But I've created a plastic surgery unit or team similar to you, where I have a plastic surgery coordinator who handles a lot of the financial billing, expenses, calls, facilitating phone calls with my scheduler to get on the schedule. She handles both the initial calls, the FAQs, the setup for consultations, as well as the after visit, breakdown of costs and billing and, any other follow-up questions. She helps to direct them to my website, where I have a ton of information, blogs, and links to post-op garments and all of that jazz. As far as the day-to-day, I have a pretty close team. I have a medical assistant who follows me to all 4 offices that I go to. So I go to Plymouth, Elkhart, Mishawaka, South Bend, and she's with me, and she's really the person who is the engine in the office. She gets the patient from the waiting room. She puts them in the office. She handles both my hand patients and my plastics patients. She takes sutures out. She answers calls. She rooms them. She gives them all their paperwork and instructions. She signs off on all of the required paperwork for breast augmentation implants. And so I'm tired just listening to this list of duties. She's running around crazy, and she does a good job because we have a very busy clinic. And I've recently hired a nurse practitioner who's helps that because she's offloaded both of our job duties. And so I don't need to see as many patients, and she doesn't have to room as many patients because my nurse practitioner has taken a huge step into helping this team out. And she's really that connector between the office and the OR. So she follows me and is with me everywhere. So she's in the office with me. She's doing injections. She's trained to do toxin fillers. She then is in the OR. She is highly trained and skilled in the operating room, and so she knows exactly what we did with the case. She's answering phone calls the next day about the patient, troubleshooting things, and she can really help to understand the pre-op concerns, expectations, discussions, because we're talking about it with the patient in the office. She's in there in the pre-op area where I'm doing my markings, and then we're heading back, and so we're always just talking back and forth, sorting through problems and issues. So she's kind of that connector that you have with your nurse. Since, as I said, my work week is really broken down 50-50, half office, half OR. My OR team has really become a close part of my family as well, as far as the work family. My circulating nurse.
You spend a lot of time with them.
What's up? Yeah,
spend a lot of time
if you imagine 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., 2 days a week and everything in between, we are in it. And when you do a bunch of cases together in surgeries, there's a lot of humor, sarcasm. You're kind of pushing each other's buttons. You're having fun with it because that's the one way that you need to do to cope with stressful situations and making work fun ultimately. So my circulating nurse is a go-getter. She's young and strong and motivated and energetic and highly efficient. I describe her.
So can you maybe break that down? What is a circulating nurse?
Yeah, so the circulating nurse I would describe as sort of an orchestra conductor. So she brings the patient into the room, and then she is basically allowing our surgery to proceed. And that means that she is refilling and getting saline bags and medications for anesthesia. She's passing instruments and sutures onto the sterile field in a sterile way that we need for the operating room, whether it's extra suture, it's extra gauze pads, it's she's working as a DJ. She's changing the station when the song's bad. She's part-time photographer. She's taking pictures when there's cool parts to the case. And so she's running around while at the same time making sure that we stay on time. She's getting ready and set up for the next case because I may be doing a 360 lipo and breast aug as I did. I talked about and followed that case up with a carpal tunnel, ligament reconstruction, skin cancer of the face, and so she needs to get the pathology specimens ready and all that stuff.
And she's obviously there helping, but she's also, they have a lot of like documentation for safety, procedural things, timeouts. There's all these other built-in kind of protocols in the OR, which are very standardized, but to make sure, those kind of things, wrong site surgeries, things like that, just shouldn't happen, won't happen, which might be trickier with hand surgery since you actually have it right and left. Normally in the body and breast, we're working on both sides all the time.
It's very important to double check and triple check and make sure you're fixing the right finger and stuff. Thankfully, that's never happened to me, but she certainly keeps us in line, reviews the consent form, is up to date on all the protocols for positioning. And, when I'm asking her, it'd be like, oh, like this is a great picture. The patient's going to want to see this. She's like, oh, that's great. I'm not doing anything else. Let me take a picture for you, But she stayed with it. She's awesome. She, helps order our lunch so we're not getting hangry later on. She's really doing a little bit of everything. And then, my scrub nurse, Kim, who has worked with me for over 3 years now, has scrubbed, probably 90% of my cases. It's so amazing to have a job, in a surgery center that I think is top notch, the best place I've ever worked at, where I, reach out my hand and she knows exactly what to put in there to operate, depending on how I'm positioning my fingers. She knows whether it's a scalpel or whether it's a needle driver. She's there often.
Do you ever do the sign language?
Yeah, I think, yeah. She, gets there oftentimes an hour and a half before the case starts. And that's things that I don't really realize, until I get there and get set up for that. So she's, getting everything ready in a sterile way to have us repeat a surgery again and again, safely and reliably. So she really makes everything go. And I think I've found a team that really works well together, and they all enjoy doing different things just like I do. So they enjoy mixing it up, doing a scalp cancer followed by a tummy tuck, followed by a trigger finger, and all of that jazz that makes my practice a little bit haywire. And then lastly, my surgery center, we have our own anesthesia team, which is wonderful because I know that I'm likely going to get one of two anesthetists for my mommy makeover and plastic surgery cases. And they do a wonderful job in just making sure the patient's comfortable, making sure that their nausea is controlled, making sure that they're treated well, their eyelashes, extensions are protected during the case, and really just go the full length to make sure that they're happy. And it's not infrequent that at their first post-op, my patients are saying, oh, tell so-and-so, thank you so much. Or, oh my gosh, I loved your recovery room nurse, X, Y, or Z, they were so great. It made me feel so good. And so from our registration to our pre-op nurses who are excited to see the transformations, it's wonderful to be a part of such a huge team that really makes it click. And it's important for the patients. They're certainly experiencing everything. They're nervous, they're anxious, they're vulnerable. And you want to make sure that every phase of their procedure is going to be successful and without a hitch.
Do you have a tech as well, or just the one assistant?
I have a scrub nurse, and then I have my nurse practitioner who scrub in and do the cases.
Got it. And then there's also probably pre-op PACU nurses as well that play the joke at our surgery center is that like the pre-op nurse who also does the PACU recovery gets a lot of like the compliments because they remember her the best. Mm-hmm. Everyone else is a little bit fuzzier. And so like all the reviews are always like mentioning her by name and like the team, and everyone's like, well, like you guys are the team. It's all a big team. But yeah, it really is. It's, with the last year we opened up our own surgery center. So, like you have a lot more control and a smaller team, less of those variables. And, just, trying to provide the patient with a really great experience from when they come in the door, getting checked in, just trying to make it all as smooth as possible. And just consistency, like just makes, there's less questions, less, chances for things and not, they know exactly what's going to happen and what to do. So that pre-op nurse kind of has it all dialed in. The, anesthetist, really focused on minimizing nausea, really smooth, wake ups, recoveries. And then, that surgical team, and we can frequently do a case with, very words being said about what we're doing, obviously, because we've done so many of them. So normally, we can focus on, we're focusing on the surgery, but in the background, changing the song, making sure it's to everyone's taste, and just making sure everything's as efficient and enjoying it as well. So having a really good team that works together, works hard, is been a huge game changer over the last year at their own surgery center.
Yeah, it's kind of a joke, because when I post something on Instagram, thank you to a great OR team, or happy birthday so and so, I'll get some messages from the pre-op nurses, the packing nurses, being like, "What about us? No one ever gives us any props." And so I'm constantly needing to.
Because you probably have more pre-op nurses
to thank them more. Yeah, we broke the record. I think this December we did 107 cases in a day. So it's a huge operating enterprise. We do spine surgery, total knees, total hips, cataract surgeries, spinal injections. And so it's not just one pre-op nurse, it's a huge team, and they're well organized. They're hitting it, working hard from the beginning. And same with phase 2, because there's only so many beds, so they need to kind of get patients in and out. And patients are leaving, they get a flower on their way out, they get heated up muffins in the phase 2. We really have tried to make it an elite center. So I know that our satisfaction rate is 99%. Patients are happy, but it doesn't go without the staff and the people who are there making it happen, because you can dream it, but you need the people on the front line that's really making it happen and enjoying what they do. So it's always fun to finish a long case, and then when I walk back to see the next patient in pre-op, the pre-op nurse is like, "Oh, how did she do? She was nervous, but we laughed about this or that." And that's the human touch. That's why a lot of people go into medicine, and what keeps us pushing.
That's right. Who else is there? Those are that's the core of the surgery center. The clinics.
Yeah, the only other difference I would say is that I do have a scribe in my office, and scribes, and they work extremely hard. They are transcribing everything that we're talking about, and it allows me to just sit in front of the patient and talk to them. So I don't need to be in front of a computer, and that's, I would say, probably more important for the hand surgery side of things, because I'm just saying, "Oh, let's see what your x-rays look like," and they pull it up. "Oh, you need an MRI. You need to, let's see what these labs are, or what the cultures show." And they're just pulling it up, and it is basically hands-free. And it's great to have that other person who can remind me how many injections I've done, or what we talked about last office visit, or what the restrictions are, because that is also a huge part of my team, particularly, and having the same scribes and team members there that are with me, and they travel with me to the different locations, and really make the patient experience better.
Yeah, I'm always blown away by the number of patients you'll see in clinic. You'll be like, "Oh, I saw 60 patients today." I'm just like, that is insane. I will, on a busy day, maybe see 15 to 20.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, again, hand case, and I'm sure a lot of those 60 are hand, where you're kind of really moving through things. But, a lot of my post-ops are doing photos, showing photos. That stuff takes time, and I, show them before and afters. I think that's a really important part of it. But that's really the only time I ever have a tablet out, or everyone is showing kind of the simulation. Otherwise, I do everything quick notes in the back, which is normally efficient enough for me.
Yeah, the hand case certainly is more involved with computer work, which is great to have them with. And I'll see 40, 50, 60, 70 patients, and patients, don't feel rushed. That we get to the point where you treat the problem, but I think it's just because I'm speaking with them. I'm not looking to a computer. It seems like I'm spending enough time with them because we're answering all their questions and making sure that they're happy and good to go. In the plastic surgery consultations, I'm kind of like searching for things to write down or whatever. I'm like, it's less of that. It's more of the pictures. It's more of the description, the expectations, the risks. All of that is more of a verbal communication, making sure that we're on the same page, more of a meet and greet sort of thing with your surgeon to be.
Yep. Awesome. Well, I think that was a good overview. what else? I don't know. You got any other good info?
No, I think we should sign off. We should maybe give a little trailer on what the next podcast episode is going to be about, or who it's going to be about, which is I'm particularly excited about.
Your favorite actress?
She's a wonderful actress. Of course, we're talking about Megan Fox, who is very talented. She recently, and I would say wonderfully, came out and discussed some of the plastic surgery procedures that she's had, some of the treatments that she has, and some of the ones that she hasn't. And I think that is amazing and very important for social norms and expectations, so that some of the taboo that's around plastic surgery can be diminished, so that followers and fans and people who are striving to look their best can understand that some of that may be attainable, some of it's natural, but it's not all olive oil and avocado. It takes a little bit more than that. So I'm very proud of her for being able to declare the air, and we're going to talk about that in the next episode. I think it'll be fun because we go through a lot of different topics, and I invite you guys all to come back next week for it. Yeah,
thanks for following along today, and subscribe, follow, let us know if you have any feedback, any other topics you want us to touch on. Otherwise, we'll see you again soon.
All right. See you, Dan.
Thanks so much for tuning into this week's episode of Fuller Butz, a behind-the-scenes plastic surgery podcast. Doctors Fuller and Butz are so appreciative of your time and attention. We invite you to subscribe, share, and continue to enjoy our plastic surgery perspective. Feel free to reach out on Instagram at either @SFullerSurgeryMD or @DanielButzMD. That's Butz with a Z, for comments, suggestions, and support. Remember, be artsy, stay scientific, and make life fun. We hope you'll join us again on the next episode of Fuller Butz.